Fire Pro Wrestling Returns was released in November of 2007 here in the United States. But Fire Pro Wrestling is a very, very long line of wrestling games in Japan that started in 1989. Now, Fire Pro Wrestling has seen an American release in the form of the Game Boy Advance games Fire Pro Wrestling and Fire Pro Wrestling 2. However, this was the first console iteration of the series. Fire Pro Wrestling is very different from that of SmackDown vs. Raw, or really any game you see today, and the main thing that's different about it is that it's 2D. Now, it has tons of game modes. First thing I'm going to show you, though, is just the exhibition mode. I'm going to talk about some of the things that you can pick here. You could choose to have up to 8 people in the match, 4 on each side. You could choose to be over the top rope elimination, the time, how many falls, the ring, the venue, the referee even. You can choose how hard the opponent is, how big of the difficulty it is to beat them, and that ranges from 1 to 10. Now, the biggest complaint about Fire Pro Wrestling Returns is that it's too hard to play. And it is very hard, and it is a steep learning curve. But if you start on the first difficulty level, which I know some people don't like to do that because it hurts their integrity or something, but if you start on that first one and work your way up, you'll get the hang of it. I still don't go over 4 because it's just too difficult. Now, with the referees, you can make your own. We'll get to that later, but they give you several referees to choose from, including female referees. Each referee has their different style, how fast they'll count, and how likely they are to break up a DQ situation. All that is explained in the manual. You can turn on lumberjack mode, you can turn on rope breaks, outside interference, things like that. Now, the other great thing about Fire Pro Wrestling Returns, right out of the box, is its roster. It comes with about 300 wrestlers. I think it's 325 total. All of them are likenesses of wrestlers that are already established. But since they don't have the licenses, they can't actually use their name. So you'll see a lot of Japanese wrestlers in here, like Misawa or Chono, Kobayashi, but it does have some American wrestlers in here, as you see there. You see Animal Hawk, Andre the Giant, Scott Hall, Sting, Bret Hart, Bam Bam Bigelow, and many others. They just aren't named, but they come up with clever names, like instead of Sabu, it's Tattoo, and instead of Kevin Nash, it's Raven Gush, and so there's similar names, so you can figure it out pretty easily. There are renaming lists online that you can go through and rename them all. It takes a very long time to do, though. And if you ever lose your data, that's one of the biggest things about Fire Pro Wrestling that I don't like. Getting on to the gameplay now, Fire Pro Wrestling is one of my favorite video games because of the AI. Now, for the most part, the AI is spot on. It's not going to do anything too stupid. A lot of the times with SmackDown vs. Raw games, the reason I don't play them for very long is because of the AI. You get guys running into the ropes for no reason. You get, suspicious DQs. But with Fire Pro Wrestling, for the most part, you're going to get a great match every time. And I really like the fact that you can tweak their logic. Now, what I mean by tweaking their logic means basically you can tell the wrestler what to do at what certain times. So say you do a suplex, you can tell them this percentage of the time that you do a suplex, after that go ahead and go for the pinfall, or something like that. It's very specific, and one of the main reasons why Fire Pro Wrestling puts on such great matches. Now, a lot of you are saying, what's the point in watching a match? Well, at one point in your life, as you grow up as a wrestling fan, things start to change. Like, what things are important start to change. Like, when I was a kid, I loved Warzone, and the reason I loved Warzone over games like No Mercy or WCW versus NWO was because I got to see their whole entrance. I got to see, hear the actual music because it was CD based, and that was very important to me back then. Well, now that's not so important to me. I tend to go more towards matches like this, like counters like that make my day when I'm playing Fire Pro Wrestling. This game is very special and very underrated. When it came out, Fire Pro Wrestling Returns was only $20. It soon got dropped to $15, and now you can find it used for about $5 at any GameStop. It's a really good deal. Now, it takes a lot of work to get into Fire Pro because you got to learn all the specific moves that you could do. It's all timing based. That's how you play the game. There's no button mashing unless it's pinfalls or submissions that you're trying to get out of. There's several match types, like right here is the cage match. As you can see, Kevin Nash and Bam Bam Bigelow are in there right now. This Fire Pro Wrestling, for another thing about the game is that its level of hardcore is almost unmatched in any other wrestling game. In Fire Pro Wrestling, you'll find cage matches, barbed wire matches, light tube death matches, just about anything you can imagine except for a WWE licensed gimmick match is in this game. I mean, not to mention the fact that the guys bleed, and when they bleed down to their chest. There you see, you can relive the ECW days. A great thing about the models being so simple, the character models, is that it's not hard to make realistic edits, as they call them. They don't call them creator wrestlers, they call them edits. So it's very simple to make, guys of the past, and they look accurate. For me, with SmackDown vs. Raw, it's really difficult to kind of, shape the face and make it look realistic. With this, the faces are preset. All I have to do is change the colors. Fire Pro Wrestling is not only wrestling, it also has mixed martial arts. It has, K1 fighting, it has ultimate fighting. Right here you see they're in an octagon. It has fighters, those two fighters in the ring right now, Rampage Jackson and Ken Shamrock is who those two are supposed to be. And this is really fun to play. I'm not a fan of ultimate fighting, but these matches are a blast to play. You can set the rounds, how many rounds, you can set the length, you can make titles and put them on the line. It's a really fun game, and not just for wrestling fans either. Now for the actual graphics of the ring, they're 2D / 3D. They are three-dimensional, as you can see when the camera moves around. Everything stays put and it is three-dimensional, but everything looks like it's 2D. The crowd is 2D and everything like that. Battle Royals are also a blast to play. You can get up to 8 people in there at a time. You can go Royal Rumble style and have people come out every, couple minutes. You can actually set the time, how far apart they come out rather. And it's also just a good way to see all your edits at once. As you can see in the ring, a lot of these faces are recognizable. There's Sting, Jeff Jarrett, Vader, Rikishi. The guy in the purple pants is supposed to be the Great Khali. Now this game is a game based off of the 2005-2004 year, so you'll see a lot of old faces in here. There's some that aren't wrestling still. They have legends in the game. But all the preset people have realistic movesets. Sting will have the Scorpion Death Drop and the Death Lock. Jeff Jarrett has the Stroke. So all in all, for the gameplay, it's just amazing. Like I said, it's going to take a while to get used to it, but I definitely recommend picking up Fire Pro Wrestling. The next thing we're going to look at are the titles. Now, you can actually create titles. They have some set pieces in there. You can change the colors of the pieces. You can't mix it up too much. I mean, you're going to run out of ideas after maybe your 20th belt that you make, and they don't come out with the titles, which is kind of lame. You can also do matchmaker mode, which puts you in the shoes of a promoter. Now you have to pick one of their organizations that they have in here already, which is kind of lame because you can't use created wrestlers or anything like that. So it's pretty limited in that point. But what Matchmaker does is it gives you 12 events that you have to book, and it actually awards you excitement points for the matches that you book. If it's a good match, they're going to give you more points. If it's an entertaining match, they're going to give you more points. And it depends on the organization you pick. You have to book to their tendencies. But all in all, it really does get old, and it's kind of a throwaway mode. I haven't played it too much since I got the game. I've had this game for about 3 years now, and I'm still playing it like crazy. You might want to dabble in this mode, but that's it. Next up, edit.